Greetings survivors and friends, I'm SHADOWFRAX, and forget leaving early access. This is all you need to know about this week's update. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all soon. Cheerio. Well, it's not that simple, is it? Because yes, this week Rust did indeed leave early access. But what does that mean? Well, first of all, as you can see from my stunning footwear, Helk finally crumbled under the pressure and added frog boots back to the game. Or maybe that was the plan all along. Perhaps we'll never know. As well as going with any clothing you care to match them with, making them the perfect footwear for every occasion, they only cost 1 tarp to make and offer 8% cold and 5% rad protection to boot. However, they've only been given out as a craftable item to those who played Rust during the early access phase, as a way of saying thank you. So if you buy the game now, there's no way to craft them yourself. Sorry. Also, if you don't own the blueprint and you caught wearing a pair, that's an instant game ban. So, what else does leaving early access mean? Well, perhaps first I should say what it doesn't mean, just to clear up a little bit of confusion. Leaving early access doesn't mean the game's finished and done with. There's a long roadmap ahead and probably still years of development and expansion beyond that, as Helk has big plans. The pace of development isn't slowing down either, and there will still be a dev blog and community update every week, which also means I will still be producing an update video like this for you every week, so don't panic. Now to what's changing. The price has risen to $35, but no, if you already owned the game before it moved out of early access, you don't need to buy it again or pay any extra. I know some of you were stressing about that for some reason. There are 2 versions of the game now in your library which can both be installed at the same time. That's the main game and staging branch, where all the latest updates will be live for you to play with and give feedback on. However, instead of changes being merged into the main branch every week, this will now happen once a month, on the first Thursday of each, along with a forced wipe, so that means the next one will happen on March the 1st. Apart from that, not a lot else is changing, and it's business as usual, same Rust, same wonderful community, nothing to see here, blah blah blah. Although, as you've no doubt twigged from the shots you've been seeing here, as of this update, the actual world of Rust has suddenly transformed into something that's likely to give you eye diabetes if you stop and gawk at it for too long. You see, for a while now, in the background, a lot of work's been going on to overhaul the visuals of our procedural maps, and this update saw all of those merged at once. What you'll notice first are the colours. They're more natural, closer to how the game used to be a while ago, nothing clashes anymore, dare I say it, the whole place almost looks like a painting now. And this is thanks to the entire palette having been redesigned from the ground up. The new trees I've been showing you recently have all been planted now too. Not only is the detail higher, but thanks to these being better optimised, forests are a lot denser, and with improved billboards in the works, next month performance should be even hotter. And thanks to the new foliage system, there's a lot more quantity and variety in our ground cover now too. I know it was only last week that rivers went from being wheatgrass smoothie green to the blue Danube, but with this update they've changed again to something altogether clearer and more wholesome to look at, with a touch of foam. They even have plant growth in areas now. Smashing. As well as all these changes, harbours now spawn correctly again, the new hilltop rocks and cliffs blend better and mind their own business around monuments, and it's all just such a blasted pleasure to look at. Scientists are now live on official servers, and you'll be glad to know they've been injected with a little bit of Stormtrooper DNA, which means they'll no longer insta-headshot you and now have to work with aim cones just like the rest of us. They're still off by default everywhere else, but server owners can enable them by adding this line to their startup batch files. In other changes this week, to make it easier to get those juicy blueprints, barrels now give 2 scrap instead of just 1, and thanks to a fix to workbench tier loot tables, you should now be able to discover new ammo types via experimentation. A couple of item costs were reduced, with fire arrows needing only 2 cloth instead of 10, and netting needing 1 rope instead of 3. Double sheet metal doors are now a default blueprint, and a new item of food was added: pickles! Kind of an in-joke this one, as Helk decided to try his hand at pickling when researching food preservation, something that's going to eventually be a thing in Rust. You'll find these in food boxes, and they'll give you 5 health, 50 calories and 20 hydration a hit, although there's a small chance of them giving you botulism along with the associated Technicolor yawns, possibly something that was also part of Helk's research. There were some changes to recoil and aim sway this week, with the latter only kicking in after several seconds of ADS now. This is is going to lead to much higher accuracy and could be interesting. Also, the AK's horizontal recoil kicks in a bit sooner. And tutorials are now finalised with pretty much all the early game stuff, such as visiting a road and making a workbench, covered with a task list to really give players an idea of why they'd want to do this in the first place. A bug was also fixed where the game and menu tips were always in English, preventing them from being translated into other tongues. The upkeep system was reworked slightly, with the upshot being that resources placed in your tool cupboard are used in a much more intuitive and accurate way. Plus, doors will now decay properly if their upkeep isn't paid for, instead of just being immune. Elsewhere, rendering stability was tweaked, and you should notice an improvement around shorelines where previously there was a lot of flickering. As a byproduct of this, water caustic shadowing was disabled for now. Not that you even know what that is or are bothered, I'd wager. So, not a big deal. In works in progress, as I mentioned, tree imposters, also known as billboards, are going to be improving as time goes on. The plan is to expand their usefulness to include several different angles and also use them on objects other than trees, which should all help increase performance a lot. Hair caps, which are used like a cheap conditioner to add extra volume and detail under the hair, are being reworked. The idea is for them to blend much better into the skin for a more realistic effect and will help out in the future with stubble. This has meant rebuilding the actual hair too, but the end result will look more natural with better colour variations. And lastly, clothes on view models, as I mentioned last week, are not far off, the main issue being skins looking too low res when viewed up this close. However, a clever trick that adds detail maps to give the illusion of higher resolutions is being used, and as you can see here, should hold up a lot better. Expect to see these in the next patch. Thank you for watching, you're up to date. Please leave a like and sub if you haven't already. You can also join my stables on Twitch, Twitter, Discord and my Steam group. I shall catch you all next week as per, but in the meantime, keep calm and stay rusty. Cheerio.